Lenovo is one of these brands that offer laptops at pretty much every price point, at pretty much all form factors, and they have something in almost every performance tier. But what about when you equalize one of the biggest performance indicators, which in our case today would be the laptop RTX 5060? Arguably one of the best picks when it comes to price versus performance, no matter if you're a general power user, gamer or creator. As it happens, I was lucky enough to have 3 laptops in the studio at the same time, betting on exactly that 5060. But as you can already see right away, while they may share the overall form factor and screen size, these puppies couldn't be any more different. So how about I give you an overview for the Lenovo Legion 15, Yoga Pro 7i and a refresh for one of our go-to gaming laptop recommendations from last year, the Legion 5. Since while they may share the same GPU, their overall feature set varies greatly, both in obvious and not so obvious ways. And when it comes to pricing, well, let's just say that the fastest of these 3 costs about half compared to our most expensive one. So how about we get into it, since we have quite a lot to talk about. Let's kick things off with the all-new Yoga Pro 7i, and this one pretty much walks in the footsteps of its bigger brother, Lenovo's flagship creator laptop, the Yoga Pro 9i. So inside the sleek full metal chassis, the 15-incher bets on Intel's latest Panther silicon in the form of the Core Ultra 9 386H, with 4 performance, 8 efficiency and an additional cluster of 4 low-power E-cores. And given what we have seen from the new mobile generation from Team Blue this year, I have high hopes that the Yoga will deliver, especially in the battery life department, but more about that later. I mentioned it in the beginning already, the Yoga bets on a 5060 running at a max wattage of just 85 watts. So I'm very curious about our performance testing. Alongside the core components, our config gets you 32 gigs of soldered but incredibly speedy RAM, a 1TB SSD and a 165Hz OLED panel. If an understated, subtly looking creator laptop isn't quite your jam, how about a 15-inch gaming laptop that will definitely make you the center of attention wherever you're going to take it? That would be our config of the refreshed LOQ 15, which comes in what Lenovo calls Surge Green, and it's definitely something. Under the hood, the evergreen budget option in Lenovo's lineup pairs a 105 watts RTX 5060 with refreshed AMD silicon, the Ryzen 7 250, which is in the end an older 8-core 16-thread Zen 4 CPU with a new name. To keep the price down, our config has to make do with 16 gigs of single-channel memory and a 512GB SSD, and instead of the OLED, you are greeted by a 165Hz IPS. Which leaves us with the 2026 Legion 5, and at least on paper it takes the best bits of the Yoga Pro 7, which is definitely the OLED for example, updates the CPU of the LOQ to a much more recent Zen 5 chip, the Ryzen 7 450, and feeds its RTX 5060 105 watts as well, for some additional performance headroom compared to the Yoga. Once again, our config bets on 32 gigs of system memory and a 1TB SSD, and I have very high hopes for this one, since it's been my personal go-to recommendation if you're looking for an incredibly flexible and well-spec'd mid-ranger last year. Alright, that's specs. So let's see how all of these compare when it comes to style, overall material quality and portability. Right off the bat, the Yoga is of course the clear winner here, since with a much more subtle design and all-metal chassis, it feels and looks the most premium out of all of these, but it should given its price point. But it's definitely not just a pretty face here, and the 15-incher feels incredibly sturdy, the hinges are very well adjusted, and the chassis flex is pretty much a non-issue. That said, while I do not have a 2025 LOQ on hand right now, I feel like Lenovo upped their game with their entry-level gamers, and this one right here feels quite solid as well. I just wish the hinges would keep the display with its metal in place with a bit more confidence, but apart from that, the overall chassis feels quite tanky with just a little bit of flex in the keyboard area despite the plastic construction of the base unit. Contrary, the Legion 5 feels a bit less dense, and it also feels a bit softer, if that makes sense. But it's also quite a bit lighter than the LOQ, while the Yoga would still be your best bet when you commute with your laptop a lot. It's also the only one being solely USB-C powered, so the power brick is also much smaller and lighter compared to the other two. Just keep in mind that you will plug one of the USB-Cs when charging. And speaking of ports, in typical Lenovo fashion, you will hardly find anything to complain about here, and especially the LOQ and Legion offer pretty much everything you could ask for and then some. Starting on the left, and the Yoga offers a speedy full-size SD card reader, a pair of Thunderbolt 4s and HDMI 2.1. The LOQ a single USB-A, the headphone jack and a USB-C 4, while the Legion gives you two of those and a network jack. On the opposite side, the Yoga complements its selection with a pair of USB-A 3.2 Gen 2s, its audio jack and the power button next to a physical webcam switch that is shared with the LOQ and Legion, which both offer a single USB-A on the right as well. Behind back, the Legion brings another two USB-As to the table alongside an HDMI 2.1 and the power connector, while the LOQ adds a network jack, HDMI 2.1, USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 and the power connector of course as well. When it comes to their respective keyboards, we can keep it short since, well, we are talking about Lenovo laptops here, so all three of them offer decent travel, even the slimmer Yoga, and overall great tactility. Both the Legion and LOQ offer numpads, even though they do feel a little cramped, especially on the Legion. In the mouse supplement department, the Yoga is the clear winner, since its sizable touchpad has the softest, most premium feeling click, while the other two offer basically the same functionality, but have a sharper, much louder click. Not really a deal breaker, but definitely a difference. In regards to their respective webcams, I would say the Yoga offers the clearest image and the best color representation, while the others are in regular gaming laptop territory, which is somewhat alright given their respective price points, but I can't help but feel a little disappointed by the Legion 5. Under the hood, both the LOQ and the Legion offer a pair of SODIMMs, which seems to be getting much more important once again, given memory and storage prices and the LOQ's base config. Since with its initial setup, you could just stomach the 16 gigs of system memory right now and upgrade down the line, once you either find a solid deal for additional RAM or when prices come down again at some point in the future. And while the same goes for the Legion, for the Yoga you are stuck with a pair of NVMe slots similar to the other two, but the memory is soldered, so what you buy is what you're stuck with. Alright, that leaves us with the display situation before we finally get to our performance testing. And for both the Legion 5 and Yoga Pro 7, you will hardly be disappointed, and both laptops share almost the same results in our measurements, with almost 500 nits in SDR and above 1000 nits peak in HDR. Both laptops also offer generous color gamut coverage, and the Yoga is also very well calibrated from the factory, while the Legion shows some bigger variations even after our manual calibration. So you will be able to use each of these two for your content creation endeavors, but the Yoga will definitely be the better pick for anything color critical. They also both offer additional pre-calibrated presets, which is a big plus as well. So what about the LOQ? Well, if it wouldn't be for the relatively low brightness, the 100% sRGB panel would actually be pretty solid, and it still is, but especially in brighter environments you might get in trouble. But for gaming and some entry-level content creation shenanigans, this is a very decent panel, especially once again considering the price here. And while we are the subject of displays, while we are also testing the Yoga Pro 9 right now, Lenovo also sent over their all-new Yoga display, the Yoga Pro 27UD, which is a 4K 120Hz OLED that is a bit on the pricier side, but offers a lot for it. So not only do you get a ton of ports to make this panel the centerpiece of your overall setup, but it also comes with one of the best webcams I have ever seen on a display before. The speakers are also nothing short of amazing and subjectively easily rival Apple's Studio Display, and all of this combined with a pretty sexy looking design and a pretty jaw-dropping display experience, be it for games, content consumption or content creation. Well, I'm really liking this one a lot. If you want to know more or want to see a full review, let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. And circling back to the Yoga Pro 9, I'm currently benchmarking and daily driving the 5070 12GB. So definitely make sure to leave your sub so you won't miss our full review for Lenovo's decked out creator and power user flagship. Alright, benchmark time. And since I don't want this video to be much longer than it's already going to be, I will focus on some of our selected results, so we are able to compare these three with each other and a few of their respective competitors. So if you are after the detailed wattages for each of their individual power modes, for example, want all the scores from each and every benchmark we tested, or simply want to add other competitors, please head on over to our written review. I will link all of them in the description below. So let's kick things off with the CPU part of it all, and in our combined rating with a plethora of both single and multi-core loads, the Slim Yoga actually delivers some pretty solid results, which wasn't quite what I was expecting, since the Legion 5, for example, runs its CPU at a much higher wattage. Our isolated Cinebench runs show pretty much the same picture, and especially the LOQ with its Hawk Point architecture is falling behind significantly, while you probably won't really notice the difference between the Yoga and the Legion. System performance is also very much in the Yoga's pocket, while the Legion is again not really far behind, and even the LOQ is delivering pretty solid numbers here. So all three should be great general computing companions for pretty much everything you do with a laptop. The Yoga Pro will just be ever so slightly faster and snappier for whatever you plan to do. On the GPU side and in our synthetic benchmarks, things start to move around quite a bit. And despite the slower CPU, the LOQ can score a pretty significant win. I would assume because Lenovo simply reserved more power budget for the GPU in combined workloads. The Legion can close the gap slightly in times by, while the Yoga simply has to face the reality of its slimmer chassis and lower overall wattages. Blender tells a similar story, and should you want to use any of these for heavier content creation applications that more often than not rely much more on GPU performance, the Yoga, despite its much more obvious creator focus, might not be the best choice, at least not when it comes to raw performance numbers. Comparing some gaming results, and once again the LOQ and the Legion are trading close here in Cyberpunk and in Full HD, with the Yoga trailing behind quite a bit. And in QHD the LOQ is definitely showing that a laptop's price does not necessarily say something about its performance. Baldur's Gate gives us a similar picture between the Legion and its more budget-focused brethren, while the game really does not seem to like Pentalag here, or the Yoga simply cannot allocate power as efficiently between its CPU and GPU. I also took all laptops for a spin in the new Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, and all 5060s delivered a pretty stable, almost 60-ish FPS experience with very high settings and standard ray tracing in Full HD. And with MFG at 3x, you are able to push things above 100 FPS without a problem, and with the HDR capabilities of the Legion 5 and the Yoga Pro, it elevates your gaming experience quite a bit. So it's definitely not all just raw FPS numbers, and as per usual, what gives you the best experience will depend greatly on your favorite games. Fan noise has of course also a really big influence on exactly that overall gaming and work experience, and both the Legion and Yoga can be very silent machines in low load scenarios, while the LOQ has its fans running every now and then. Not to a point where it's a deal breaker, but definitely in a way you would notice. As per usual, I recorded some samples for you for a more subjective impression, and also added a speaker comparison, but that's once again a very clear win for the Yoga.
you got nothing to lose. Give me that good reaction. Gonna make it right, little like an offer I can't refuse. I'm on the road, it's my time, taking control of my life. I want to run no red lights, I've got to run this show. You always take me so.
Away from their respective chargers, it is again a pretty clear win for the Yoga. For one, because Panther Lake is simply the more efficient CPU architecture, and the small 15-incher also has the biggest battery here. That said, the Legion is holding its own, especially for a gaming laptop, while the LOQ trails behind a bit because of its smaller battery. Alright, so which of these laptops is the best? Well, as per usual, and please don't hate me for saying this, it depends. If you ask me, the Yoga Pro 7 offers the most rounded overall experience with its relatively lightweight and incredibly premium chassis, gorgeous OLED, amazing inputs, and adequate performance. That said, it is insanely expensive, especially for a 5060 machine, and when it comes to actual performance numbers, both the LOQ and Legion are faster for a lot less money, and they offer the chance to upgrade their memory, which can be a big one a few years down the line. The LOQ actually left me quite impressed. Sure, the color of our config will not be for everyone, but apart from the slightly too dim display, it does not come with any significant disadvantages and offers a great daily computing experience, and it's also the fastest of the bunch when it comes to anything that's GPU accelerated. The Legion 5 is somewhat in the middle, but leans more towards the LOQ when it comes to performance and offers a similar display experience to the Yoga, and while the chassis is mostly plastic, it feels very solid and comes with an insane amount of ports. So if you got the money, get the Legion. If you are on a budget, you will be very happy with the LOQ, and if you are a professional that values a very well-rounded machine and maybe you can even make money with it, check if that Yoga matches your use cases. Since while it's expensive, it's simply a very awesome little computing machine. But that's just my take, so let me know what you think now that you have all of our numbers and more subjective impressions at your disposal. Which would be your favorite? Thanks a ton for watching, good people. Please leave a like and sub on your way out. You definitely do not want to miss our video about the Yoga Pro OLED or the Yoga Pro 9. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic as always, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.